downtown, I got that heat, let's go.
Yo, happy Friday, good people. What up, B?
Good evening, everybody. What's going on? It's a good Friday, right? It's a good Friday. Good Friday.
Every Friday's a damn good Friday, B. Come on, man.
Absolutely. Another great week. Hope everybody had as good of a week as I did. It was really, really great. And today was a great day for me as well. So I hope everybody's enjoying their Friday evening thus far. After what I hope has been a productive week, let's get into it.
All right, B, you know what it's going to be tonight, man.
I do.
Focus on the Verizon earnings. And I just want to start this by saying the track for today is basically going to go like this. We'll start the show going through key metrics that I think we're most engaged with when it comes to the content on the channel. And then I want to serve like all like everybody who watches, right? So we'll cover financials, we'll cover broadband, we'll cover wireless, we'll cover AI. Apparently that's a thing now, right? So we'll cover it all. We'll just put it in the segments. We'll take it piece by piece. And by the end of the show, you guys will know everything about Verizon as they currently stand and how they're looking moving into the future, the rest of the year. And I think probably the future of the business. There's some of that in there. And then I think after tonight, we'll also be in a better position to understand what we may see from AT&T on Monday. And then in subsequent days, because I think T-Mobile is either Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll have the most important parts of the industry taken care of. Then we'll just wait for big cable. If Dish decides to talk about something, maybe, I don't know. I'm sure things aren't really swimmingly over there, but yeah, man, let's go ahead and one company down and a couple more to go. So let's cover everything we got to do here with Verizon. All right. Key 2024 highlights. This is as described by the Big Red Company. Delivered on financial guidance, revenue growth with strong operational results. More than doubled wireless postpaid phone net adds compared to 2023. Continue to take broadband market share with Fios and FWA, 5G home internet. Strong execution against capital allocation priorities, including strategic transactions, and then well-positioned with strong outlook for 2025. Okay, so I call this the Hans statement. That's typically what he leads with. And then what we'll do is we're going to kind of move down a little bit and look at the stuff that we care about. All right, let's start here. Total postpaid phone net adds of 568,000 in the fourth quarter of 2024, up from 449,000 fourth quarter of 2023. So that represents a pretty sizable increase. Really nice for Verizon to be able to show that they can do some growing. I know some people, have been a little down on their growth or their inability to grow, whatever the case may be. But when they want to, they can. And I think that's what this boils down to, right? That's what the quarter proves. If Verizon wants to grow, that they can. And, one of the things I heard Sampath discuss today was the 80-20 split. He brought it up again, where it's 80%, the way they split it is, I think just margins and volume, right? They want that split. And that's how they've decided to move. That's what they feel they need to do in order to kind of address the three main things that their business is focusing on, which is, EBITDA growth, paying down debt, taking care of the investor with dividends, service revenues, that's the focus. And, that's good growth. So it's up from the Q4 last year. Broadband continues to be a strength. 408,000 net additions, continuing the quarterly pace of over 350,000. Fixed wireless access total was 373,000. I think the breakdown was, I'm trying to remember. I think 150 some thousand business, and then like 210,000 consumer. So that's kind of the breakdown there. 4.6 million fixed wireless access subs currently. They're probably going to get to the 8 to 9 million on time, 2028. Fios, they added 51,000. Total home broadband subscribers and business broadband subscribers, 12.3 million currently. They had a good year. They had a good year in home broadband. Service revenues, consumer revenues, increased 2.2%. Wireless service revenue up 3% year over year. ARPA, average revenue per account, is up, I think, 4%. The retail postpaid churn, phone churn, I should say, 0.89. Now, this is one of the things we're going to monitor. So, thus far, and I'm just speaking to the numbers we covered, we get to compare Verizon with AT&T on churn rate. So, Verizon's coming at 0.89. We'll see where AT&T and T-Mobile land. We see 4% ARPA growth, or it was like greater than 4%. We'll see if the others report that and, how they disclose it. We'll see what they do for the postpaid phone net adds, the fixed wireless access subscribers. We'll compare them. But yeah, those are all really good metrics. Consumer reported 426,000 wireless retail postpaid phone net additions, up 34% Q4 2023, 5.5% year over year increase in postpaid phone gross adds. Let's see here. Consumer reported 82,000 wireless retail postpaid phones for the year. So they went net positive. And to be honest with you guys, I think this is why Verizon was so aggressive in Q4. If they didn't get positive in this for the year, I think the street would have made them pay. So I think that's why Verizon was really, really aggressive to get to this number, so they could be net positive for the year. Because if you remember, the first half of the year wasn't good. So it was basically Q3 and Q4 that got them positive, and mostly Q4, right? Like it was huge. So 367,000 wireless retail postpaid phone net adds during the quarter. Prepaid, that is now 2 consecutive quarters with positive ads, excluding the SafeLink disconnects. They've got prepaid figured out. Looks like it's stable. And actually moving forward, and this is my personal opinion, I think they're going to elevate prepaid next year. Well, this year. I think 65,000 is the basement. I think 100,000 is the ceiling. So, and if they do that a couple of times this year, that's going to be huge, because that means everything they're doing is working. So we'll see. Fios, 47,000 net adds. Consumer fixed wireless was 216,000 net adds. Business still chugging along, doing great things. 142,000 postpaid phone net adds in business. Now, you're not going to see AT&T and T-Mobile give their business numbers. They never do because they don't do this. Verizon's the only company that grows like this in business. So this helps Verizon look good, and it helps them make their competitors look bad. So their competitors always grow in the consumer, and then Verizon always grows in the business. So that's why you kind of see that 1.09 for those of you keeping track on the business churn. 157,000 FWA subscribers for Verizon. Service revenue 2 to 2.8% as the guide for 25. EBITDA 2 to 3.5%. Earnings per share from 0 to 3%. That's one hell of a spread. Investor probably wants to see it at that 3%. Cash flow from operations 35 to 37 billion is the guide. CapEx expected to be 17.5 to 18.5 billion for the year. We kind of knew that. And then free cash flow expected to land between 17.5 and 18.5. Now Verizon, I think, went over 19 billion this year. So they're probably going to beat this. They're going to pull the pricing lever a couple of times in 25. So they're probably going to beat that, in my opinion. B, go ahead.
So Sneed, a wonderful job doing the rundown. That was great. I'd like to point attention to the unsecured debt.
Okay.
That Verizon reported that they were able to pay down.
Sure. Let's do that.
I think that's really, really significant. So there's been talk about Verizon being heavily in debt and so forth and so on. That's been true. But, it says here that they reported in the fourth quarter that the debt's down to $117.9 billion, which was an $8.5 billion decrease, compared to third quarter 2024, and $10.6 billion lower year over year. So to me, it seems like they've been wise as far as making sure that they're beginning or continuing to deleverage. That's a huge chunk.
Well,
in one quarter.
The proof B is in the debt to adjusted EBITDA. They went from 2.6x to 2.3x in 1 year.
Yeah. So I mean, with that being said, that seems to be like very, very competitive with what AT&T reported, and they did that without having to cut their dividend. So
right.
Right. Yep. So from a financially, responsible aspect, it seems to me like Verizon's being very well run as far as that's concerned, and they're deploying capital in a way and in places that they need to in order to make sure that they protect their balance sheet. So that's really, really good, and that sets up very well for that company to continue reinvesting in the business, reinvesting in the network and all the things that need to be done, reinvesting in AI, reinvesting in customer care, so that we can stop all that arguing and fussing and fighting, investing in the places that they need in order to be able to continue to be formidable. So, other key points, we can stop all this talk about Verizon not growing.
Mm-hmm.
That's now a outdated narrative that we should turn down. Those things are no longer the case. They grew in consumer phone net ads. They grew in business phone net ads. They grew in broadband. They grew, of course, fixed wireless and Fios. And they still are probably most likely going to lead in free cash flow, EBITDA, and wireless service revenues. So, I mean, I really don't see very many chinks in the armor as far as this particular quarter is concerned. It's time to flip the page and change the narrative. Find something else to complain about it other than the growth stuff. That's just no longer the case anymore.
Alrighty, so I needed to step in. Needed to step in immediately. So, is anybody going to address the significantly high churn?
No.
Dot 89 is dot 89.
Dot 89
is still very high.
Dot 89 is in line.
It is
with
very high.
It is in line with what it is in line with what they reported in the third quarter of 2024.
It is high.
So Moose, can I share my
Go
expectation for
ahead.
the other two? I think that, and I'm kind of like in the same pot with B here. If they were .89 before and they're .89 now, that wouldn't be considered a spike, right? So
No.
I'm thinking .89 is now Verizon's set point. They're saying anything above .89 might be concerning. They seem content at .89. Now, what it means for the industry, that tells me that maybe T-Mobile finishes a little better, and I think definitely AT&T finishes a little better.
Well, I mean, yeah. Listen, when you spend as much as AT&T does, making sure that they give away phones, no matter the plan and all that kind of stuff, I expect them to have industry low churn. But what we saw in the third quarter was that the delta between the worst, which was Verizon, and AT&T as it relates to churn was 0.11%. So we're talking about extremely competitive numbers. And if that number of 0.89 again was in line with the third quarter, then to piggyback off of what Sneed just articulated, one can reasonably hypothesize that churn has been addressed to such a point where they now can start to bring it down. They've gotten it at least under control.
Yeah.
And they've been able to do that while also raising prices, just like the rest of the industry did. And they were also able to be financially responsible as far as paying their bills, paying debt down. They still have also been able to report probably what's going to be industry leading, again, wireless service revenue, free cash flow, and EBITDA. So again, I mean, like a 0.11% delta. That's pretty competitive, if you
Go
ask
ahead,
me.
Moose. Jump back in. Go ahead. We
Okay.
iron that.
So remember this. They gave guidance for 2025, which they did not do in the Capital Markets Day in 2024. Okay.
Mhm.
And in the guidance, they said that the reason why they got significantly high free cash flow was because of the tower sale.
Yeah, vertical bridge, correct.
Correct. This
Yeah.
year, they won't have that tower sale. Okay. Number
But they're
one.
pulling the pricing lever, Moose.
Well, hold on. Right. But when they pull the pricing lever, guess what happens? The
Churn
churn
rate goes
goes
up.
higher. The churn will definitely go higher. Okay.
You
Now,
can't say that. They did.
that will definitely,
They
because
did.
guess what?
They hiked
Every
prices last
customer right
year.
now,
Yeah, and their
every
churn
customer
spiked,
right
B.
now that has gotten on a BYOD plan from Verizon, and they were expecting to pay similar prices to T-Mobile and AT&T, and they go up $3 because they're on a five line or higher plan, they're going to be pissed off and go back
And so
because
what's
they're
going to
not in the
happen?
business of making more. They're not in the
And what's
business of
going to
spending more money.
and what's going to happen when AT&T and T-Mobile also raise prices this year, which they
T-Mobile
will,
is only going to be raising prices on their legacy customers.
For sure.
which is what Verizon has done as well.
They are
And
raising price on the My
AT&T,
Plan.
I
On the My
understand.
Plan.
I
That's not
understand.
legacy.
And I know that. And what I'm saying is there have been multiple price increases from Verizon, and most of the time it's been on legacy plans. So if T-Mobile, again, back to my original question, if T-Mobile raises prices and AT&T raises prices, why would anybody turn to go to other companies that have also raised prices? That's not going to be exclusive to
So what
just
I
Verizon this year. It's not,
so,
Moose.
so what I think he's
In fact,
saying,
AT&T already started because they raised prices on FirstNet.
so Moose,
So
what I think B is
it's not
saying is
like
there's
they're
nowhere
the
to
only
hide,
company.
you know? Is that right, B? There's nowhere
Say that
to
again. No, there's not.
hide?
I keep saying the same thing, and it's like I don't know. Maybe guys are picking and choosing, but the entire industry is going to raise prices in 2025, just like it did in 2024. AT&T raised prices on FirstNet customers, and eventually they're going to start hitting those precious consumers as well, because they have to raise their guidance and their stuff as well.
So
They got
here's
to
what I'd
continue
say,
the momentum. How are they going to do it? By giving away a bunch of phones and stuff all this time. You have to raise prices, and they will in 2025.
to
Mark my words.
Moose's credit, I think what you're gonna see is because they don't raise prices at the same time, there's going to be like quarter disequilibrium, meaning the quarter when it happens will show the churn spike for whatever company raises. They're not raising prices at the same time, right?
Well,
So
well, that makes a lot of sense. But to that particular point, what Verizon does and what they've done, and you've reported on this as well, Sneed, they've been upfront and they've been transparent, and they let people know in January that the prices are going to increase in February. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be like February the 20th or something like that. So that's almost halfway through the end of the first quarter.
So, Moose, what's the expectation? If they pull the pricing lever and they raise the price, we're at 0.89. What would you project for a churn spike?
And by the way, it's mandated by the FCC. You need to give them 45-day notice if you're going to increase the price. So that's not unique to Verizon.
I'm not saying
everybody needs to do it.
Everybody doesn't do it though, and you know that. Everybody does not.
It's a
but they
mandate.
don't. But they don't. But they don't.
They do.
But they no, they
It's
don't.
a mandate by the
T-Mobile doesn't always do it.
But they
does not always do it.
I know they don't, Sneed, and you've reported on it before. So what Moose is saying, even if it's true, it's not true because everybody doesn't do it.
Well, AT&T does it, and so does Verizon. T-Mobile doesn't always do it.
So since there's 3 players, as I said, everybody doesn't do it, and I'm glad you said it instead of me.
I apologize.
Okay,
T-Mobile doesn't do it. Yeah, I didn't know this. I was saying like the top 2.
They always do it.
Non-ethical. The ethical companies, they do it. Right?
All right, so I'll go with that, Moose. You're right about that. But again, everybody doesn't do it. And so to that credit,
T-Mobile is the problem there. Yeah.
There you go. So at least when Verizon does it, they abide by what you said, which is the law, and let people know and give people an opportunity to make their own choice.
Right. So now, a couple things here, right? Before I address how big of a churn bubble. Historically speaking, what Sneed has been saying for many, many years now is that the fourth quarter, Verizon has always done way better than any other quarter in the year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Factual statement by Sneed, factual statement from the financials. The other thing that Verizon has done in the fourth quarter is drastically increase their promotional spend.
Correct.
Fact? Okay, fact. So what we have seen also by the numbers in their guidance for 2025 is that they are indeed going to pull back the promotional lever, which means that they are going to limit most of the top promotions only to the ultimate plan. Unlike what they were trialing on the fourth quarter, which even the middle tier plan was given the $1,000 off any year, any condition. So what I'm believing is going to happen in the first quarter, because you've already seen it since the second week of January, is that Verizon has pulled back their promotions. And instead, what they did was they did a BYOD offer. Okay. They're giving $800 off if you port in from an alternative carrier, right? They basically give you $800 in credits and you keep your phone. So instead of them giving a national promotion of $1,000 off any year, any condition, they are giving you $800. So they're saving $200 essentially is what I'm saying, right? Now, in terms of, to address the churn percentage for this for this quarter, from what I'm seeing from just the negative reaction on Verizon subreddit, this one is big, dude. There's a lot of customers that are going to be affected. A lot of customers, their lines are 5, 6, 7 line plans. So the reaction was really negative. They were not happy about it.
Well, who clapped for price increases? I mean, what do you think? People are going to say good job?
Who claps for price increases on modern plans, like the most current plan? That is
that's tough, bro.
That is not the norm. We have been seeing
Verizon won't be the only company that does that in 2025. Mark my word.
What I'm saying is that we have seen legacy plans that are retired plans. Right?
Okay, so Verizon was the first one. I'm telling you, they will not be the last one. I'm telling you that they won't, and you know it, Moose.
Technically, AT&T was the first one. Remember the 99-cent increase? Yeah. Technically.
Okay, well then what you just said is inaccurate.
Because what they did was they changed the plans.
Right.
They ended up giving the customer a little bit more in some segments.
Right.
And what Verizon did was Verizon changed the modern plan, which is unusual. That's true. I've never seen.
So now we're splitting hairs, guys. Did they raise prices? Did they raise prices on current plans or not? If the answer to that question is yes, then answer that question is yes. Now we can have a separate conversation about whether they augmented the plans in any way, shape, or form. Okay, fine. But the original point was, were prices raised on current plans? If AT&T was the first, then what are we talking about?
But here's the thing, though, to Sneed's point, I forgot about this. They not only did increase it by 99 cents, but they gave an extra 10 gigs on the hotspot.
That's why they
So
changed the
what?
plan, and then they renamed the plans.
But that's
Right.
a different topic. The original topic was Verizon raised prices on current plans. If AT&T did it before, then again? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's two completely different topics.
AT&T changed the plans. Verizon.
So they renamed them.
Modern plans.
So they renamed them and gave 10 and charged an extra $1. It's the same thing. Those are the current plans.
But they added more hotspot data to those plans.
All right, so I can see that
you're increase the priority of the data allotment, whatever it was like 50 gigs or 100 gigs.
All right, guys. So
I'm just naming the terms of the plan, but you don't have to like be condescending towards me, dog.
Well, I'm not trying to be condescending, and I apologize if it comes off that way. But we're splitting hairs right now. We're adding extra layers to the discussion, and the original point was Verizon raised plan prices for the current stuff, for the current plans, and I agree with you, they did. But to Moose's point, he just got finished saying that AT&T did it first. So what are we talking about? And then the conversation is now morphed to, yeah, but okay, that may be true, but the original point was, oh, well, Verizon's so terrible for raising prices on current plans, which AT&T also did. That's all I'm saying.
But to Sneed's point is, yes, they raised price by $1, 99 cents, but they gave you more benefit. Verizon is not giving you more benefit. They're literally just raising by $3.
They're just all I'm saying is they're squeezing the customer without giving them a thing.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you guys, going from 100 megs to 4 gigs is giving the customer quite a bit. So, I mean, and again, they will not be the only carrier to raise prices in 2025.
But there's not a speed plan, though.
That's part of the value proposition, Sneed. That's part of the value proposition.
I didn't hear talk about that at all today. All I heard him was talk about the value prop as it pertains to perks.
That's part of the value proposition. Network access, like network performance, that's part of the value proposition, Sneed. Like Verizon talks about that all the time. They've been telling us that for 25 years. That's part of the value proposition.
I got to say something here as well. So people that are switching, there's 3 main categories of why they would switch or why they would stay with a certain carrier. The customer is looking at 3 things. Number 1, if they're in the switcher pool, which one is going to give me the best price? And that is split into 2 categories, right? Category number 1 is, what's the best price for the rate plan, and what is the best promotion that they're going to give me? Those are the middle tier is network. And what I mean by network is mostly reliability, not speed. Nobody cares about speed. It's about, does my phone work, yes or no, period.
Please.
Only a very niche amount of people care who's getting 400, 500, a gig down. There's very few average consumers, like literally, we're just talking about the average consumers here, that they actually care about speed. And the third one, this is most important, because if you have parity in an urban environment, if you're at parity with network, right? If everybody has service everywhere you go in the urban environment, then the third one is very important. Whenever you have a problem and you call into customer service or you chat, customer service is critical. So what did Verizon do? They know that their customer service sucks. They know it. Okay? They know it. And Sneed has been very, very vocal about this, Sneed. You've said this in many videos.
I know, but not everybody has the same experiences as me. Some people say that Verizon's been great for them.
But again, you have made it very clear that their customer service is not up to par like it used to be. Correct?
That's true.
Correct. Okay. From a network perspective, right? In the CLE, everybody's at parity with each other.
They're all great. Yeah.
Everybody's at parity. Okay, so network is irrelevant in this conversation. So then it goes to network goes to, remember, I'm saying in the CLE. I'm not saying everywhere. I'm saying in the CLE to give an example. Okay. And then it goes back to which one is going to give me the best price point. And if Sneed is looking for price as the main de facto and as well as customer service, then That's the differentiating factor. He will choose based on price if he is in the market to switch.
So Sneed, didn't you just release content about how Verizon actually improved in customer experience and actually outranked AT&T? Then you just you literally that was like within the last 3 months, right? Probably in the last month. Am I not correct?
It was very recent. Yeah.
Okay, so that narrative is outdated. We have to make sure that we update with the times. That's not an accurate statement anymore. That's number one. Number two, from a pricing standpoint, again, I reiterate, Verizon will not be the only carrier that raises prices on current or legacy. They're not going to be the only carrier that does that in 2025. Mark my words. AT&T will do it as well because they're under pressure to make sure that they deliver on their commitments as well. And I guarantee you they are probably going to raise guidance. And you are not going to be able to increase your overall revenue and your overall profitability if you don't raise prices. Because right now, everybody's looking to pay the same thing and never go up. So raising prices is a lever that all three carriers will pull in 2025, just like they did in 2024. All right. So that's going to be congruent across the industry.
Oh, by the way, here's the speeds from Ookla. B, you were talking about the Verizon speeds, the 4 gigs. Here's the most recent speed score from Ookla.
Very good. So people care about speed or they don't?
I don't know. I'm just saying I wanted to show you the average across the country.
All right. So that's the average across the country. Do people care about speeds? Because I mean,
I don't think so.
Everything. I'm not saying that. If you're saying it not as much as whatever, okay, fine. But
I think when you have a certain amount, like you need it, right? You need a certain amount for it to be like really good and useful. I think there comes a point where it just because AT&T has the lowest speeds, but they have the best customer retention.
Because they're giving away the house. They are giving away phones regardless of what price plan you're on. And they have not moved from that lever.
Got the best deals according to Rage and Dusty with the super. Thank you.
Exactly. So since they have the best deals, of course they're going to have the lowest churn. But do they beat Verizon in profitability? No, it's not even close, Sneed.
Nah.
It's not even close. So based on that, I'm not the CEO, so I don't know. But based on how Verizon's moving, they would seem to prefer making $3 to $4 billion more than AT&T over a 0.11% churn rate as it stands right now. They seem to prefer the money.
We don't know, man. We got to see the results on Monday, right?
I mean, hey, if AT&T, they probably will lead in churn once again, and they should because they're the ones giving away the house.
Also, the free cash flows. We'll find out on Monday.
We'll find out if anybody beats Verizon. Then hey, more power to them. But in this particular market, every single carrier is going to exercise their pricing power. They will, because everybody's network has improved precipitously. And you don't build networks or buy other companies and then keep the prices the same. You have to return some sort of value to your shareholder and be able to keep up with investing in your business in order to remain competitive going forward. You can't do that by keeping prices the same, unfortunately. Somebody tell me different.
No.
Look at the math. It's right there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we discussed churn. We discussed the growth. We discussed the customer movement. I was able to kind of look at some of the metrics here, and I think we got a pretty good pulse as to what's going on. Prepaid looks pretty stable. Broadband looks very strong. Business postpaid phone net adds are tremendous. Consumer postpaid phone was great for the quarter. Really good for the second half as a whole. The first half was rough. The second half was great. We'll see if 2025 kind of plays out the same way. You don't want to see the losses anymore. I think as long as Verizon is promotionally active, you're not going to see this minus 158,000 stuff anymore. I think they're gonna show some good numbers because Sampath and Hans said they're going to continue to grow.
That's what they literally said.
Yeah, they said they're going to continue to grow. Absolutely.
So even if they just get, for example, in the first quarter, say they only get 50 or 60,000 new ads in the first quarter.
That's growth.
That's a better first quarter than they've reported in a long time. And
last
if they're able to, and if they're
minus 158,000.
Yeah, so like if they're able to do that and retain industry leading profitability, that's a win.
It is.
Like there's literally nothing to complain about in this quarter. Like Moose, all due respect, you're nitpicking, man. You're trying to find something, but there's really nothing there.
Well, that's the one thing I thought, of when I was looking at the results that just caught my eye. I really didn't see much else. It was really just the churn. I'm assuming, I might be wrong, but I do think they're going to be third out of 3 in churn.
So be it. I mean, listen, man, it is hard to lead in every single category.
is.
But
It
again,
is.
a 0.11 delta between the three as it pertains to Delta, a $3 billion difference in total revenues versus the second ranked competitor in that particular metric. Which one would you choose, Sneed?
Well, you know where I stand, but what I'm saying is, Moose, that dot 11, do you think that's substantial? Because B doesn't.
Well, remember, Verizon has 130 million customers. What's
140,
0.11 of that?
140, 140.
That's a lot.
It's about 2 million subscribers, 1.5 million subscribers.
A lot.
So be it. 3 billion is a lot too. Like 3 billion is a lot, man. That's a lot of money. When you owe, like to your point, Moose, when you owe as much money as you do, you probably should be mindful of your balance sheet so that you can pay your bills. And to Verizon's credit, they pay like $8 billion of their debt, and they're under 100. They're at 117 billion, which is 10 billion less than last year. Like, that's what they reported. I'm just saying.
Hey,
That's
Moose,
really a good improvement.
Moose, I caught this during the earnings conference, the earnings call. Verizon is officially under 100,000 employees. Are you surprised by that?
No, not at all. Remember, we talked about this.
Do you think that continues? Shrinkage?
I think their goal is going to be 85K. Yeah.
So another 15% reduction?
Yep.
So, like, revenue growth is so challenging to get in this particular industry that companies have to look for ways to cut costs. So that's what the consumer is asking the companies to do. Find a way to cut costs and try to keep the cost down when all of the companies have spent tens of billions of dollars to invest in their product, to invest in their network. Where's the money got to come from? What's the largest expense on the ledger? It's almost always the employee. So this is what the customer asks for. The customer is asking for the companies to find ways to keep pricing as flat as you can. That means that employees, yes, are in the crosshairs. What else is in the crosshairs? Ooh, customer service. Again, we talked about this before. Like, there are competing interests. That's how business works. And in order for the customer to keep their prices flat while they continue to get increased value propositions, somebody's got to pay the price. Unfortunately, it's the employee oftentimes. That's just the way it is, man. And it's unfortunate, but that's why when it comes to these types of conversations, I don't get so upset about a $3 increase or a 99-cent increase. Because the money has to come from somewhere. When you have companies that are spending tens of billions of dollars in capex every year just to keep up with the pace of growth that the consumer is using with respect to data usage, because nobody cares about speed, but everybody cares about data usage, right? The American consumer, nobody consumes like Americans. We do it really, really well, and it costs money to keep up. So who pays the price? Unfortunately, it's the employees. It is what it is.
All right. To kind of expand on some of the stuff from the call, AI strategy. This is new. Using existing assets to leverage AI-enabled applications. Verizon's first statement at Open literally mentioned AI. They said in their opening statement, "This is our earnings and AI update," followed up by another AI mention before any statements, even before talking about the consumer and the financials and all those things. They made sure that they mentioned this AI thing. What they're going to strive to do and what they're focusing on is enhancing experiences and driving efficiency. So to me, that means cost of operations. They also want to personalize products and solutions, which means personalizing for their, I think, business application customers, and then connect the AI ecosystem, which is AI Connect today, market-facing, generative AI, and what they're calling Verizon AI Connect, which sounds like business solutions, sounds like they're going to leverage their existing fiber footprint whether it's the MCI piece or it's the one fiber, long haul, edge to cloud. Customers are going to have access to tools to control things that they need to control. And then specifically with the assets, I think it was Kyle Milady speaking to power, space, cooling. Verizon is going to leverage their facilities to enable data centers. They mentioned Google and Meta by name as current customers. They mentioned and name dropped NVIDIA, right? And they were talking about getting the macro grid involved with this whole thing, including the edge compute, which private networks and other things, we kind of know where Verizon stands. They're going to be at the forefront of that. And, you know, that as they inch closer into the future, I think that stuff becomes more apparent. But Moose, do you want to kind of comment to any of that we heard on the earnings conference?
Yeah, you're talking about the AI infrastructure and the different things that they're doing and the dark fiber and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's very interesting because, you know, AT&T and Lumen and very other, you know, fiber ISPs, they have been looking into the data center market for, you know, years, right? I found it extremely interesting that they were basically like, oh, the sky's the limit on the opportunities, or like the funnel that they said, right? Because, you know, you could basically say anybody is the funnel and you can bump that up to $1 trillion funnel, right? Of opportunities in this type of space. But at the end of the day, those type of partnerships, like the one that was announced in the Oval Office 2 days ago, 3 days ago, with OpenAI, Oracle, and
all the semi builders.
Right. So, you know, Oracle with their servers, OpenAI using those servers, right? And then obviously Masasan is going to be funding part of that, right?
Yeah.
SoftBank, right? So those are the type of deals that are going to be coming out. I mean, even Microsoft came out today on X, if I'm not mistaken, and he said we're spending $80 billion on AI infrastructure this year alone, right? So, you know, there's AI boom, but the biggest thing that's going to be the issue is going to be power, because eventually those data centers that in the boonies, right? Abilene, Texas is about 2 hours west of Dallas, right? It's not that close. So you're eventually going to need a data center, actually in more data centers in Dallas, right? For specifically AI. So you're going to need more power, you know, more electricity generating power plants, right? And obviously you're going to need you know, some type of internet infrastructure to those locations, right? Potentially multiple ports per location, right? Or multiple different fiber strands, individual strands per location, right? So, you know, I think this is one of the things that I was told today. If you look at how much the stock went up compared to the competition, I think that tells you plenty on how big of a deal the AI was. It was not as big of a splash today from the investor community as they would have hoped. I think that it was like a slight distraction um, compared to the other beautiful numbers that Verizon gave. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think that their net ads, their overall performance in the quarter and how they rounded out the year was much better story than to throw in this AI thing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The other carriers will follow the leader, and they will talk about AI in their earnings reports as well, because that's what happens. These carriers have been following Verizon's lead for the last 25 years, and that's not going to stop. You think AT&T and T-Mobile aren't trying to figure out ways to get into cooling, to get into power, to get into space? More so AT&T than T-Mobile, because T-Mobile don't own anything, but AT&T does. Do you think they're not trying to interface with AI providers in order to try to see if they can get some piece of the pie? It would make logical sense for them to do that, seeing as how they're stressed to try to raise their total revenue dollars as well. I already explained that ad nauseum. So of course they're going to be talking about this. And if they don't, for whatever reason, then they missed an opportunity to make sure they enter into that space. Just not checkers.
Solid.
It's an asset. So if you're going to turn down a wireline network, if you're going to take all that copper out, that means that you have central offices across the country where space is no longer being used. You can sell that real estate. And that's what this is all about. In order to increase, you have to deploy every asset you can in order to make sure that you give yourself a chance to increase your overall revenue and your profitability. If you don't do that, you're doing your shareholder a disservice and you're doing the customer a disservice who will continue to ask for more while not paying more. They'll ask. That doesn't mean they'll always get it, but that's always the expectation from the consumer. How are you going to meet that? You got to find ways to increase costs somehow. We already talked about employees. This is another way to be able to increase your total revenue.
All right. So looking at momentum, this was one of the questions in the Q&A session. Sampath said he expects higher net adds in 25 than 24. He spoke to the value proposition resonating with the customer. He said customers identify savings within the perks and the benefits. He said local marketing is working. He mentioned opportunities in tier 1 markets. He says that Verizon is doing better in T1 markets now. So that would be probably be like your top 50, top 100 markets?
Sounds right. Sounds reasonable.
Okay. So very typically those are T-Mobile markets. Is it possible, Moose, do you think that maybe Verizon, with all their growth, some of those maybe came from T-Mobile?
Yes. I have a feeling that there's a lot of T-Mobile customers that they looked at the deals in the fourth quarter of the any year, any condition iPhone, and they were like, well, Verizon, and they're on legacy Verizon plans, right? They were like, well, in order for me to, get anything close to the equivalent of they're on legacy T-Mobile plans, right? And they're saying, well, in order for me to get anything close to T-Mobile, I have to go on the max, on the very highest plan, right, for T-Mobile. But with Verizon in the fourth quarter, they were giving even the middle tier plan,
which adds value, right?
Yeah. Right. And then it adds value, right? And then they were even giving $800 off the cheapest, the entry plan, the welcome plan, right? So they saw that, hey, Verizon might be a better option because I'm getting a better value and I'm getting any year, any condition on an iPhone without having to go to the top tier plan at the promotional period, right? Mm-hmm. So I do have a very strong suspicion that this year, T-Mobile actually might come in third place in net adds.
What?
Third place. Yes. Dude, they said it very publicly in the banking. I
remember.
I forgot which one, but I
remember.
Yeah, right. You were there. You heard,
yep,
right?
Yep.
He said,
Yep.
Mike Sievert straight up said, we are having a lot of pressure in this quarter.
Yeah, he did mention that. That was at the beginning of December. Yeah.
Right. So there's no way to, when a CEO comes out and publicly says that, guys, there's no way to make up
the stock tanked, Moose, remember?
Yeah, and the stock is going to tank again. That's my prediction. T-Mobile's, yes.
They're already overvalued. Yeah, Moose is right. They're overvalued. They're trading over $200, but their balance sheet doesn't imply that they should be trading at a price that's higher than NVIDIA. Come on, NVIDIA is a $3 trillion company, and they're trading higher than NVIDIA. Sneed, there's nowhere to go but down for that stock price. And let's be honest, I know you're objective, and I understand, but that's the truth, man. They have nowhere to go but down. But to the point that Moose is making, Verizon and AT&T have nowhere to go but up.
That's probably true.
Their business models are sound. Look, AT&T, for everything we talk about, they're building like crazy, and they are competing. They are utilizing the assets that they have available right now to the best of their ability, and it's working. Their stock price is up. It's working. Now, they're going to raise prices too because they don't have a choice. They have to, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to move anything with their deals. That's their thing. That's their niche. That's how they're competing in the space. They are rolling out internet air everywhere but New York because New York's crazy. I mean, they're doing what they need to do to compete. Verizon is doing the same thing.
Hey, by the way, I got a question B on that one.
I mean, for the first time, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this last thing, then I'll turn it over to you. And for the first time, you have a more equal competition between the carriers from a network performance standpoint. For
That's
all
yeah.
the speed that T-Mobile has, listen, man, AT&T and Verizon are not finished building. They are not finished, and they're coming. And they're coming behind the wireless network. They're also building out fiber as well, like crazy. Their value propositions overall are stronger than T-Mobile's, and everybody knows it. How are you going to maintain $200 as your share price in that type of environment? There's nowhere to go but down. Go ahead, Moose.
I was going to ask you, do you think that it was a mistake to pull out of New York City, AT&T on the
No,
wireless?
no. I actually support the move. I think AT&T is well within their rights.
The reason why I'm asking is because there's been a lot of talk that they shouldn't have pulled out, right? Because for whatever reason. And I don't think that people realize that, Starlink even had to get a waiver. I don't know if it got approved or not, but Starlink is a very expensive service. It's not $15,
Oh no.
Nobody's charging $15 for home internet.
Right.
So like New York is way out of touch, way off base, and AT&T is right for what they did. And to be honest with you, I hope they're not the last carrier to do it. I don't think Verizon's going to go because I think that's their ILEC footprint. So I don't think they can. I don't think they can leave even if they wanted to. But the other carriers like T-Mobile, they're probably thinking about it. They're just not bold enough to do it right now because they know what I just said is the truth. They're trading at higher price than Nvidia, for God's sake. And the last thing that they want to do is tank that share price. But if they start operating their business like they should, the stock price can't do anything but go down, Sneed. It can't. Think about it. They're already rolling back promotions. They've raised prices. You got to pay $5 to pay your bill in the store. They're doing everything that they can. For whatever reason, that doesn't ever seem to resonate with the customer base enough to be able to actually have them to start losing customers. But to Moose's point, that starts to happen in 2025 is my prediction. AT&T and Verizon have very good value propositions right now.
All right,
And I think the market that's going to resonate with the market. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, let me jump in on this, and Moose, I want your input on this. The second question on the call was about the upgrade environment and financials. Hans mentioned there have been many quarters of decline in iPhone upgrades, just phone upgrades in general. Customers are keeping their phones for several years. He spoke to the voluntary separation packs. He spoke to overseas customer care. He was speaking to those items. Sampath followed up, speaking to 2024 being the slowest year ever in upgrades. He said we have to see improvements. The life of device on average is beyond 40 months at this point. Customers will be due for switching or upgrading based on 36-month installment outcomes, right? So if you're at 40 plus months, you're due for an upgrade. Do you think that is the calculus? Do you think that is what's going to happen this year, that eventually, if we're talking 40 months or longer, Moose, these people are in iPhone 11s and 12s.
Yeah, and that is true. I've seen those on the Verizon network. But, I just popped open the earnings presentation, and I'm looking for the percentage of equipment upgrades or like the upgrade rate.
It was like for the year, it was like under 3%.
Yeah,
but it was elevated in the fourth quarter.
Sure, the fourth quarter was the shining star, but it's the holiday quarter.
But it was the holiday quarter in the fourth quarter last year, and they didn't see this kind of uptick. So I think to Sampath's point,
I think maybe it's turning the corner, right? I got you.
I think there may be some validity to what Sampath is saying. I think eventually the customer is going to break the phone, whatever the case may be, or be enticed by $1,000 off of a device, literally a free iPhone. People do the best that they can to try to preserve their phones, but things happen. And so because of that, Sampath may have a point. At the end of the day, if the upgrade rate upticks a little bit, it's a little bit healthier, that's fine. But no carrier is going to get but so upset about that if we're being honest, because it's empty calories anyway. Only the market cares about that kind of stuff, and Apple.
Yeah, but what's important is we're starting to see a connection to customer acquisition and ARPU, because they're starting to sell them on the multiple services. So we're seeing the carriers are fighting more for customers now.
I agree, but I'm talking specifically about upgrades.
But the
So
upgrades are part of the thing and attracting the customer.
It's attracting the customer to be able to talk to the company,
Correct.
so that they can sell, so they can upsell. So I agree with you there, but the actual upgrade itself is empty calories.
Sure.
So if you can upsell the customer to a higher tier plan, or to get FiOS, or to get AT&T fiber, or to get Internet Air, or to get Verizon's fixed wireless access product, if you have the ability to do that, now the upgrade makes sense for the business, like for the actual carrier.
Right.
But upgrades themselves, none of the carriers have been crying about upgrades. That's only been the investors and Apple who've been upset about the upgrades. There's empty calories. Like, the carrier doesn't make any money off that.
Hey Moose, Verizon paid down $7 billion in debt in 2024. What's your take on that?
No, it was it was over $8 billion in the fourth quarter alone, according to what they said in the financials.
I got the quote from Tony. He said $7 billion in 2024. That's what Tony said. He's the financial guy. I don't argue with the financial.
Okay. I'm looking at the actual news center, and
Sure.
the actual it says Verizon's total unsecured debt as of the end of fourth quarter 2024 was 117.9 billion, an $8.5 billion decrease compared to third quarter 2024, and $10 billion lower year over year. That's what it says on the website. So I don't know.
Reply to that.
Yeah, so very interesting. In 1 year, they let go of let me do the math really quick. They let go of almost 6,000 employees in 1 year. So that's interesting right there, right? We talked about that.
They did say that there were some savings from the separation packs too.
Right. And then they of unsecured debt year over year, they went down $11 billion. Net total debt, so the total debt, right, was actually 6.6 billion, because it went from 150.6 to 144.0. It's really good because their net to EBITDA ratio is 2.3. Remember, AT&T wants to get to 2.4, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. It's looking good, right? They're paying off their debt slowly, right? Every year they are doing approximately 6 to 7 billion. So that's really good.
C-band was tough, bro. It came at a tough time, you know.
Yeah.
There was also a mention of fixed wireless access pace possibly slowing a bit
on the residential side. Yeah, they did say that.
Yeah, suburban and rural was mentioned, but you know what came up a couple of times, about 3 times, was the MDU solution in tier 1 markets and how that would scale. And then Moose, because you alluded to this in our conversation off air, immigration impact.
Oh, and that's another thing we got to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, you might think this is a hoax. You might think that this is crazy. But how many millions of illegal migrants do you believe are in the United States? We will start seeing a significant amount of disconnects this year. Okay. That is not just a prediction, it's a fact, because if hypothetically every day there's about 400 to maybe 1,000 people deported, every single one of those people had a phone. That's a fact. Every single one. Okay. So if we were to do 365 days multiplied by an average of, let's say, 500 people per day deported, that is 182,000 people that no longer will have service within the United States. And majority of those people are on prepaid. And the majority of undocumented, there's no longer undocumented, I shouldn't say that anymore, illegal migrants are on Metro PCS. Overwhelming majority of that amount of folks. So I have a feeling that you're going to start seeing a lot of people leave. I mean, there was reports just this week that there was congestion on the way out from Southern California to Mexico. People are leaving. They're not going to come back. So this is big time, guys. This is big. There's going to be a shift. And prepaid numbers are going to hurt. Thoughts?
What do you think, B? I mean, the industry has its place for migrants. I mean, we definitely know about, the prepaid brands, and they do cater to those customers. You see, like, Canada and Mexico is always included in these plans, and the roaming access we see kind of like what TracFone was to those folks, and Metro and Boost. I mean, it's true. There's going to be impacts for sure. There has to be.
I think there's some validity to that. I certainly don't deny that. Um, I don't know what the scale of it's going to be because I'm not
Right.
sure. I still don't know if mass deportations are actually going to happen. Because I don't know if the Republican Party truly believes that's the right thing to do. It may be just one of those, Trump type tactics. But I do think there is going to be some level of deportation. It's not like the Democrats haven't done it before. Barack Obama, that particular administration did quite a bit of deportations, as well. So
Sure.
I think that the border will be addressed under this administration. It should have been done under the last one. They had an agreement, and Trump kind of stopped that. So now he has himself in place. So he's definitely going to try to put that under, as a notch on his belt as far as trying to, quote unquote, fix immigration. So because of that, the influx is definitely going to decrease as far as the amount of people coming over from both Canada and Mexico, according to what he said. So we'll see what happens and how it affects things. But I mean, the carriers can't control that. I think that the American people, there are more people who are starting to consider prepaid options. And so because of that, it may not completely denigrate or it may not completely eliminate the losses from those who may or may not be able to stay and all that kind of thing, unfortunately. But um, you know, the, the the positive to that is there will be people here in the country who will be available to be able to have prepaid service or to be explore prepaid service. So, and I mean, honestly, that's not the stir the draw. That's not the straw that stirs the drink anyway. It's really not. I mean, prepaid, yeah, you want to try to stay positive, but really, I mean, according to what Sampath said, I mean, the biggest, goal for at least Verizon's prepaid service now is not necessarily just to be positive in growth, but now to start being positive in revenue. Got to make some money.
All
So,
right. Let's go back to what else Sampath said. So part of his explanation, and this was actually brought up by Hans, fixed wireless access, C band, being able to monetize, twice or three times on the network, however you want to look at it. It's all about building out the reach of the network. They're seeing slightly less opportunity because they're going into places with lesser populations now. He said the switcher pool is shrinking. Sampath said that fixed wireless access is hitting and customers are taking the premium plan. 50% of growth is going to Verizon and fixed wireless access. He expects this to continue in 2025. So if there's growth in FWA, Verizon's taking a big piece. And he did say, Sampath, tier 2 and tier 3 markets are next. So they've improved their performance and their growth within tier 1, and that's going to continue. And they're going to do the same thing in tier 2 and 3 as they scale C-band. And they're seeing the customer ARPU increasing. They're hitting all the customer requests, which are choice, transparency. They don't do explosive pricing or promotional rates. So, Moose, what Sampath is telling us is that Verizon's in tune with the customer and it's paying dividends, and they see it in the ads and they see it in the growth. Shout out to Gene with the $2 super chat. Salute to you, sir. Thank you.
And
For
one
supporting.
other thing that we forgot to mention as well, Sneed, is all of the postpaid carriers have what is called a generic social security number so that they can create a generic social security number at the time of sale and get somebody that does not have a social security number on a postpaid account. Every carrier has it.
Yeah, they spoke to the transition from prepaid to postpaid on the call too.
Not just that. I'm saying like straight up, if I don't have a social,
Oh,
right?
they just put in the generic. Got
They
you.
just put in the generic.
Okay.
I think that there is a significant amount of exposure from all carriers on that because, you know, especially T-Mobile, like postpaid T-Mobile, They were doing whatever it took to get sales. We know this. They were desperate at multiple years in a row. Whatever it takes, just get it done, right? So this could be definitely shocking to a lot of people, but T-Mobile might be the most exposed by this immigration situation.
Maybe. Do you think we see those numbers this quarter in Q4, or is that going to be more moving forward?
I think that you're going to start seeing significant churn numbers spike towards the end of the quarter / second quarter, and it's going to continue. Because what ends up happening, right, is that they will go into a period of non-payment, right? They won't be able to pay, right, the account, and then they'll eventually suspend them, and then eventually they'll disconnect them.
So
right?
considered an involuntary disconnect or voluntary disconnect?
Involuntary disconnect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So involuntary disconnects will spike.
One of the things that I think it was Sampath mentioned, the pricing, the price levers, the what he calls price ups. I haven't heard that before from him, so that's new. Maybe that's a term they use internally. Price ups. They're going to get $1 billion from price ups in 2025, Moose. $1 billion.
And these price ups, what exactly does that entail?
That's what they're doing in February.
Dude, $1 billion is a massive amount of money, man.
They're literally creating 20% of the free cash flow from Q4 with the price ups.
Wow.
Yeah, that's big.
I mean, B, what do you think about that?
Honestly, guys, I think exactly what I told you. Price increases are going to be the name of the game for the entire industry. And the reason why is because, again, you had one company that spent $26 billion to acquire most of their spectrum. They bought another company. I think AT&T spent $40 billion on C-band and DoD, and Verizon spent $52 billion. So yes, price increases are going to be kind of the recipe in 2025. It's going to happen across the industry. And to be honest, after not really raising prices at all during the pandemic, which lasted 2-3 years, I mean, price increases are kind of due. It is what it is. Again, when you look at inflation and you look at the reports and you look at all the different industries that have inflated pricing, the telecommunications industry is never even listed. So the value proposition of the overall industry has really never really been better. And you talk about inflated pricing, where is it? Again, it's almost never even listed. Talk about airlines and all that other stuff. The telecommunications industry is never even listed. So I get it. Nobody likes price increases. I understand. I acknowledge it. I know that there are different, levers or different levels of income throughout the American people. I understand it. But the actual industry is kind of due for price increases after what they've all collectively invested into their businesses and the overall network performance and value proposition that they're given. It's time. And I think the investor, they agree. They agree. Nobody lost, stock price because they raised prices. It is what it is, guys. I mean, it's coming. It's already here.
What's up, EM?
Yo.
What's going on, sir? We talking earnings. Verizon did their thing today. We learned everything about the quarter and then some of the stuff moving into kind of the rest of this year. Let's see here. So besides that, they did mention they were going to monetize satellite connectivity. They mentioned they were going to utilize a network slicing models involved in scaling up those features and those capabilities. They're going to be investing in assets, of course. That's going to be their focus. It looks like they might retrofit some of their legacy stuff to be actually useful in different types of applications. They were asked about Comcast and Charter and a merger with the new administration and all that. Hans doesn't like to answer those kind of questions. I don't blame him. But he mentioned like the big cable operators are treated like large enterprise accounts, and he likes what's going on there. When asked about a FiOS expansion, BEAD build-outs, Hans said FiOS is a winner. It's the best. They'll scale up if they find opportunities. He did mention something interesting. He said fiber deployment is getting cheaper. I'm trying to figure out how the hell that's happening. He said if BEAD becomes a subsidy they can leverage, they'll do it even if it's rural. It just depends on the ROIC. And then there was a question about Brightspeed. I got to give AT&T credit here. You know, a lot is said at times. You know, Verizon is the leader and everybody follows. But if you think about it, Brightspeed is Verizon's copper catch. They're just doing it through Brightspeed. And that was T-Mobile's, or that's AT&T's thing. The copper catch was Internet Air. So got to give them credit where credit is due. What do you think of that, Moose?
I mean, I don't even know how big of a situation this is, the Brightspeed thing. So
Brightspeed's in 20 states, sir.
I know, but that doesn't mean that they have tens of millions of customers.
Oh, I don't know if it's tens of millions, but it stretches over most of the Midwest. I mean, there's
could
Texas.
Be 6 million. Could be 6 million.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait,
Because I think where the heavily populated places have fiber already. That's why.
It increases Verizon's addressable locations that they can sell into. It increases their overall open for sale. That's the purpose. I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I agree that that's something that AT&T did first, because Verizon has actively promoted fixed wireless assets in the places that they're getting rid of copper and stuff too. So I think everybody's doing that, and it's all about who's going to be able to do it better going forward. Both companies have the same type of strategy as it pertains to that.
Hold on, I want to back this up. You want to give AT&T credits where credit's due, but they're the ones that still have to deal with the decrepit copper infrastructure. Verizon just gets to sell their customers the fixed wireless. They don't have to worry about any of it.
I gave credit to the naming. I didn't give credit to the phenomena.
Gotcha. Because in my opinion, Verizon's in a much better position than AT&T in regards to that.
Oh no, I mean I could see what with Brightspeed, it's basically this. It's like these folks are not going to get fiber. So they're like, well, let's sell them fixed wireless. Let's do it through Verizon. Partnership, make a little bit of dough, get to keep your customers. And honestly, I'll be totally transparent with you guys. My belief, I think Verizon ends up buying out Brightspeed in a couple of years. That's what I think is going to happen. I think they'd like to do it before 2027, honestly.
The only problem with Brightspeed is they do not have the same asset portfolio that someone like Frontier does.
Yeah, they have less fiber.
Yeah, I mean their bottom barrel that CenturyLink didn't want. So what you would end up getting from Brightspeed is not a whole lot.
But if you're already servicing their customers, you would just eliminate the middleman. You would take the full $60. You wouldn't be taking the $45, right? Or whatever the wholesale margin would be.
It would just have to come at a really good price, I think, for Verizon to consider something like that.
I mean, right now the deal is pretty clean. I mean, they don't have to manage the accounts; they just can make the money. So I mean, they don't even really need to purchase Brightspeed right now, unless they can get Brightspeed for a really good deal. But right now, they have access to what they want access to, which is the customer. All they have to do is provide the network access, which is already built. I mean, Hans said it. You build the network one time, you get as many profitable customers on as possible. Brightspeed's the one that's got to take the customer calls. They're the ones that have to create the billing. All Verizon has to do is collect the money off the network they already built. This is a win for Verizon. They don't have to purchase Brightspeed if they continue this. Now, Brightspeed goes out of business or something like that, maybe. But I don't think they're going to necessarily. I don't think they really have a pressure on them to do anything other than what they're already doing.
During the call, Hans got called out and he didn't answer the question. One of the calls, I think it was like the last one or maybe the second to last one. They were like, "Yo, account growth is negative, even though your line growth is positive. What's the business?" Hans decided not to answer it. He deferred to Sampath. And then Sampath spoke to the prepaid to postpaid transition being a big factor. And then he started to talk about immigration about that. He did say that account growth grew in Q4, and that makes sense because they had so many net adds. So, I mean, that totally makes sense. And then he kind of called to the perks and the savings. He talked about protection and cloud products being sold pretty well. But, I mean, people are noticing that. They're noticing that on the year, you have less accounts than you did to start the year. And then the same thing the previous year and the same thing the previous year.
That might change now that they have the price increase with customers of 5 lines or more. So maybe you get more assumption liabilities to customers so they go to 4 lines in order to be able to escape that price increase. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm not sure how the math works out.
That'd be interesting.
Well, I mean, people.
I think that people are going to port out. To be honest.
You think people are going to port? You said.
I mean, rather than migrate off onto their own account, absolutely.
Yeah, got you. Okay.
That's what these big companies don't understand is when you put an inconvenience like that in front of a customer, they're just going to leave.
Is the customer more comfortable leaving now than ever?
With every company, absolutely.
When the other guys raise prices, there'll be nowhere to go, and it's going to happen this year. So,
but
I mean, so be it.
What I'm saying, B, is that your logic behind there being some sort of assumption of liability or account transfers within postpaid accounts, it's not going to happen. You're just going to have lines that are going to port out to a different carrier
and take advantage of a phone deal or something.
Yeah.
I mean, and they might. I'm not saying that they won't. I'm just saying like that assumption liability, that option, it's an option. It's something that could be done. Now, if they port out because they're trying to save $15 a month, by all means, do what you got to do. But I'm just saying that's an option. I'm also saying the other carrier is going to raise prices as well. So eventually, you're not going to have anywhere to run because, again, the industry needs to increase revenue because everybody's in debt.
My follow-up question to you is that how much longer can Verizon employ that mentality of, if people port out, so be it? Because I don't think that's.
They're monitoring that churn rate.
What's the alternative? Because again, they paid $52 billion for an asset. What's the alternative? When you raise prices and you still report to the street that your revenue grew 2%, whereas other companies in the S&P 500 are growing revenues in the tens every single quarter. What is the company? What is the company supposed to do? Like the fact that people are so upset over $15 when they're getting a better overall value proposition from all these companies collectively is ridiculous. It really, really is, man. I mean, we're splitting hairs over less than $20. Like if people are that, harder for sales, again, I get it. I understand. I acknowledge everybody's in different places. But if it's that bad, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, but the people have been cutting all types of stuff, B. I mean, you had people that
go ahead.
Used to have people with like 6-7 streaming services, they're down to 2. Everything got reduced, right? So like if you had 5 of something, you started buying 3. If you had 2 of something, you went down to 1. Things that you didn't necessarily need, you cut off completely. That's been going on for a couple of years because of the inflation, obviously. And then people are taking on so much credit debt that we have like high default stuff. We've got, used car sales. Like if you monitor all these things and you see the lowest amount of savings, I mean, banks are telling all, dude.
Meanwhile, banking profitability is at like all-time highs right now.
So you're speaking of the industry. You're not speaking to the consumer.
Well, I mean, like if you look at the S&P 500, for example, all 500, the top 500 companies, most of them have reported really, really solid earnings growth all 2024. If the consumer was that broke or whatever, multiple industries would really, really be suffering. Listen, again, I'm going to say it again because I don't think that you're wrong. I agree that the overall consumer is stressed financially. I do agree with that.
And S&P 500, every single one of those companies has established a moat where customers have to buy their services. There's nowhere to go. Like they have businesses and products that consumers must interface with.
Agreed.
So I can't say, oh, I'm not going to go to the S&P 500 company. I'm going to go to the small cap company to do it when they don't offer that same thing.
Exactly.
S&P 500 companies have essentially established moats that I don't even want to say monopoly, but they've made it so nobody else really counts.
So what do you do? Because within the S&P 500 are these MNOs.
Bro,
So
if
like,
I have
what I
to
mean,
choose
what do
between
you
feeling
do?
bad for people or feeling bad for S&P 500 company, what do you think I'm going to say to you, sir?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you. I don't know. But what I would say is like, there's people in companies and there's people that are consumers. It's just about what hat it is that you wear based on the conversation that you're having. So I'm not
No,
telling you
I'm
that
not,
you're
but I'm
wrong.
not going to tell people that you shouldn't be worried about a $20 price increase because they may have to.
Well, again, I already acknowledge that people are going to do what's best for them, and I think that's the right thing to do. But what I'm also saying is the companies are going to do what's best for the companies as well, because
Of course.
there's people in those buildings making decision as well. There's blood in company buildings, and there's blood at the end user smartphone paying bills.
Look, B, I'll be honest
There's
with you.
not blood on just one side.
B, when I think of Hans Vestberg and I think of the decisions that they make over there, I think they're trying to walk the tightrope. They don't want to cause a churn. They don't want to lose customers, and they don't hate
I agree.
people.
I agree. You're
You
right.
know, like
That's
they
true.
try to do. I think they legitimately try to do their best to keep as many employees as possible, to keep as many bills within range that people are willing to pay for without it compromising retention.
I
Right?
agree. That's
I
fair.
think they're
That's true.
trying to play. I think the customer also wants to stay too. I think the
Agreed.
preference is to stay with the good company that you have, because
Agreed.
who you go to may not be as good as who you had.
That's true.
And porting can be risky, and people have all these other factors. I don't want to call it a tug of war, but
It
there
is.
definitely is a small battle that goes on between customer and company in which they're trying to meet their needs.
Agreed. And that's fair. And I agree with you. Like, that's pretty much what I've been saying. But Sneed, again, the telecom industry has kept pricing relatively flat the last 4 to 5 years, especially during the times of the pandemic. That's been well reported and well documented. But you can't ask the companies to spend what they've spent in order to be able to improve their businesses and then never raise prices.
Well, I
I'm
do
sorry.
see.
I'm sorry. It's never a great time to raise prices, but these companies got bills, they got employees, they got to reinvest into their business in order to keep up with the consumer growth. Because for all of the, money talk, the
Well,
data usage continues to spike year over year.
I
People are
guess
using the services, Sneed.
I guess that's why a guy like Hans gets paid so much.
Exactly.
So he
And
can
they earn
massage that and make those decisions.
exactly. That's why they're sitting in the seats that they are. I mean, I don't know how else to say. I don't know how else to put it. You got to pay the employees. You got to pay the investors. You got to make sure that the consumers are getting what they want. You have to keep up with the pace of growth. That's not free, and it's hard to do when your revenues are flat or at 2%. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. What are we missing here? Is there anything we didn't cover?
No, we're just gonna talk in circles.
I'm just
So-
making sure I didn't want to forget anything, and I wanted to get you on this if I did. Um, we covered all the numbers. We covered all the stuff for 2025, all the things from the year. Verizon had a good year. Actually, I want to rephrase that. I gotta be straight up about it. Verizon had a kick-ass second half of the year. The first half wasn't good. The second half was stellar.
I don't
Like,
care. I mean, that's accurate. I don't think that's
yeah, it was like
accurate.
pristine. Like, you couldn't name a better second half for that
Yeah.
company. You couldn't have envisioned it this way. So I'm hoping that the front half of 2025 is better than last year's front half, because I do think that the second half of 24 can be repeated in the second half of 25. So, yeah, I think the year is going to be good for Verizon. I think they're a better company than they were a year ago. I think they're a better company than 2 years ago. I think the doldrums of Verizon are way behind us, right? 21, 22, 23, all that. And I think it's all systems a go. I think they're pretty stable. I like the leadership. I like Sampath. I like Milady. The technology piece is looking good. The MDU solution was mentioned today, and I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And I want to see people buy it. We talk about consumers and we talk about businesses, but the best business transaction is when a customer gets what they pay for and they really enjoy it and love it, and they pay that bill to the company every month. You know,
And that's what's
What did they-
happening. That's what's happening across the industry. Yeah.
What did they say specifically about the MDU solution? I'm
they
just
just
curious.
mentioned it. Yeah, they just mentioned it. They mentioned, you know, it's going to be in the larger markets. You know, kind of like the urban core. I don't know. They didn't mention anything about pricing, but it was named. The MDU solution was named like 3 times. So
I think they're talking about their usage of millimeter wave to serve
Right.
MDU buildings, which I think it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, but MDU solution means hardware to me.
Correct.
Right. So
Yeah. So millimeter wave, they were
Mhm.
saying they're going to use that particular technology to be able to get internet usage and internet connectivity into a lot of MDU buildings, not just files, but now also they'll be able to serve these MDUs with a competent, fixed wireless access type of solution,
do you
which
think
has been challenging,
do
before.
you think that service, because it requires high capacity fiber circuits, do you think it gets to a point where they could get these signups and get people to kind of grow the service to the point where like they'd have to go in and upgrade fiber circuits?
This is America. If you put a steak in front of America, they're going to find a way to fit it in their stomachs. So yes, absolutely. I mean, we consume. That's what we do. I'm not trying to.
Quote of the
I
day,
think-
man. Yeah.
I think sometimes people think I come at consumers in a negative way, and I don't. I just state the truth. This is a consumption company. Excuse me, a consumption country. Like 70% of the economy is based on consumption and on people going out and spending their hard-earned dollar. And the same thing applies to consumption of data. Data consumption goes up year over year, almost every year. I haven't seen a decrease in overall like data consumption yet. Now, I mean, again, if I'm incorrect, somebody let me know. We can discuss it. But
that's right.
it goes up every single year.
Mhm.
And again, so I personally call me crazy, call me whatever you want. Just don't be disrespectful, please, because I can hit back. I can hit back. But like, I mean, it's crazy to think that the usage of any product or service that an industry or company provides, that continues to go up while pricing goes down. How sustainable is that? It's not. That's the answer to the question. Don't even try to answer it because that's the truth. It's not, guys. And so because of that, you have to raise prices in order to keep up. And that's built into the economy because inflation is set at 2%, not 0. So price increases are built into the way that the American economy is. Nobody's out here working for free. People expect raises every year. People asked for raises and for salaries to go up, and they got that. And that's just part of the overall increase. And also, you got better services than you did in 2020 and 2019 when people were happy with 50 megs down. They would not be happy with 50 megs down now. Why? Because they've had a taste of 4 gigs. And once you get that steak, why would you go back to Flank? You've had Porterhouse.
I like Flank B.
No, you don't.
I do.
Not more than Porterhouse. Don't try to ruin it, man.
I like Porterhouse better than Flank. That's true. But I like Pequeña better than both of those.
All right. Well, then maybe 6G will be Pequeña. I don't know. but whatever it is, the American consumer is going to consume it. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I think it's a good example and a good analogy. Last comment of the night, and then we're going to close out the show. I Hate Traffic says he literally hates the consumer and says I don't hate the consumer. B, what do you say to that?
I'm sorry he feels that way, he or she, but it's the truth. I mean, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm only stating what the reality is. And the reality is consumption goes up in America, not down. And so because of that, you have to reinvest. And because this particular industry that we discuss every time we're on the show is so CapEx sensitive, you have to keep up with that consumption. And to assume that you can do that while keeping pricing flat, it's not going to happen. Sorry, it's not.
Awesome.
That's the reality. That's all.
Good show, man. Thank you, B. Thanks, EM, for coming by. Big shout out to Moose for being here earlier. He had to bounce, but it's all good. Thanks for all the super chats. Thank you for all the members, the support from the Patreon platform, and you guys are awesome. Just for everything you do to support us on the platforms, making the content available to everybody here on YouTube, as well as, if you guys want to become YouTube members, you can get additional access that way, as well as on the Patreon. The links are in the description. Please do like and share our videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you've been kind of hanging out and lurking. Become a subscriber and get the notification bell icon enabled, and you'll never miss an upload from the SMT. We out. Peace.